Coding is not enough anymore. And being a software engineer isn't just about coding. And I've been doing this for 18 years now in various tech roles. And I gotta tell you, it never was just about programming. Because when you start learning how to code, you have the impression that this is a skill that has an end state. Something that you need to get to the top level like it's a game. And you just need to learn things to get to that end state. And this is what keeps people on that learning treadmill of basic concepts. Because they see programming like something to complete. And once you complete it, then you can get a job because companies are looking for that specific skill. And you can replace coding with even more narrow niches that need it. But the point is that you will never really finish learning programming. There's always another level. It gets easier as you get better, but as you advance, you're going to care a lot less about the lower levels. And then you're going to start thinking more applied. And this is exactly where the magic happens, and that's the state that you need to get to. The reality is that companies don't really care about your coding skills, because it's easier than ever now to learn the basics, and companies are not looking for that anymore, because coding is already commoditized. But what they care about though, is how you pair those skills together with other particular skills in order to solve problems that they're hiring you for. We're going to look at some real life examples and we're going to see what those are. But first, let's check the tech job market, because this reflects 100% of what I'm talking about. Because by now, every YouTuber told you how hard it is to get a job in this market. And depending on the day, they say either that this trend is picking back up or that there's going to be more layoffs. So obviously nobody knows what's going to happen. But what we do know is that the companies realized that they can do the same or even more with less. Twitter started and everybody saw that they didn't collapse. And since then, there's been hundreds of thousands of people that were let go by these tech companies. And somehow the world didn't stop and none of these companies collapsed. Clearly cutting this fat didn't really affect them in a bad way. And they're going to continue to do this until it's going to start hurting their profitability. But now think about this, right? Think about the next thing. If we pair these layoffs with the productivity gains per employee that AI brings, that means it's actually a double whammy. First, you can do at least the same with less people. Then AI increases the productivity of the remaining people. So you get productivity gains with less people. So you can lay off even more people and reduce your costs and increase profits. It's a simple optimization game that is currently being played by these tech companies. So how does this affect our good old coding skills, and why is it more obvious than ever that they're not enough? Because no company wants just a coder. Because we have ChatGPT that can write nonsense if you actually want it to. Because companies need problem solvers that can use multiple skills to solve their problems. That's why nobody wants a junior or an associate unless they can pair that person with a senior. But then it becomes too costly, and then they can just decide to keep the senior and give him more work. So if you're starting out now, you cannot just be a junior software engineer. To give you an example about myself, I didn't start learning a skill and then I tried to find a company to hire me for that skill. This was years ago, right? But I learned that if I really wanted to be well paid, I cannot really go head down in an interview. I needed to be the specialist. And to be the specialist, one skill doesn't cut it. And it took me years to learn all of the skills that I now have. And I had to make less money at times in order to get better. For example, I left high-paying jobs where I wasn't really learning anymore to make half of that money, but working in a role that made me better. And I became better at programming, I became better at sales and marketing, I became better at leadership and mentoring, social media, and all of these skills, right? And I had a lot more other skills that you can just gain if you just branch out into more areas of interest. Because listen, you don't really need to know everything immediately, but if you can just pair 2 or 3 skills in a unique way, that's a start. And once you have a good understanding of how to pair various skills together and solve problems, then you can reach out to those companies. And then you can say, hey, I can solve this problem for you. And here's how I'm going to do it. And you can go step by step, and then definitely you're going to have an advantage compared to other candidates. Because each and every one of us has a different personality and a diverse set of interests. And this variation actually creates a unique offer that can make you stand out. For example, when I merged programming with leadership and people management, then I became a tech lead. At that stage, I transformed from being a programmer to a mentor and influencer within my team. And speaking of influencing, the same goes with social media, because when I paired my technical expertise with speaking and video creation, I started reaching a broader audience. And it's always a never-ending learning game, because this is based on your interest. For example, here I try to share knowledge and insight, and I'm still learning how to make these videos more accessible and more engaging. At the same time, I'm also doing a lot of things at my current job, because at my job I'm focusing on solution architecture and I'm trying to motivate my team with engaging work. And get to this state, I actually had years of solving technical problems in tens of industries. And after you do that for years, you eventually grow in a solutions architect role, and then you can start leading teams. So it's not just about coding. It's not just about programming or marketing or sales or leadership or anything else separately. It's about all of these combined to make you a more complete individual. It's a lot of work and it takes time, but nothing comes easy. I mean, look, to some it does, but not to all of us. Now, how can you apply this in your career? You have to start identifying your strengths outside of coding. Are you good with people? Are you a good storyteller? Maybe you're great at breaking down complex concepts. Whatever your additional skills are, you gotta find ways to combine them with your technical expertise. For example, if you're a natural leader and you have it easy with communication skills, you gotta start thinking about more leadership roles. For example, if you're creative, you gotta look into content creation. And if you're more entrepreneurial, you can look into freelancing or consulting. And this will require more skills like, for example, sales and marketing, but that's what you want and that's what you need to do. There's no finish line here because coding, if you're passionate about it, this is a game for life. And the longer that you go, the easier it is to learn new things. So the sooner that you start to diversify with additional skills, the better it will be. Now, listen, getting a job nowadays is harder and it's not going to become easy in the next years. So don't just focus on coding because it's not enough. And to be fair, it never was. But today, this is more obvious than ever.